Galaxis Stellar Frontiers is a scenario-based sci-fi strategy game where you take control over one of 4 factions and fight for influence over the galaxy by completing scenario-specific missions. You do this by settling on nearby planets to bolster your economy and expand your reach into enemy territory with your fleets of ships. Each scenario brings you into one of the many battles in the ongoing galactic-wide war, with various missions to complete to earn the most influence over the galaxy. This video will give you a quick overview on how to play, while some fine details can be explained and questions answered by the playtest host. When you first join the table, you can already choose which faction you would like to play. Each faction has their own unique buildings, technical advancements and combat abilities, and can be played with many different playstyles. The relentless Warmonger, a ruthless and powerful fighting machine. Their unique abilities are more combat-focused and can deliver devastating strikes on their enemies. The Commonwealth, a union of moral values which takes the highest priority. Their unique abilities are more defense-focused to help keep them in the fight longer. The Aurum Guild, a loose association of trading alliances, each aiming to maximize their profits. Their unique abilities deal mainly with trading, allowing them to find clever ways to exploit their enemies' weaknesses. The Nexus Collective, an association of the most powerful technology and research companies. Their unique abilities have a focus on researching advanced technology, giving them the technological edge in battle. There are 3 main areas of interest on the table: the scenario book, your faction chart, and the battle map. On the side of the table, you will find the scenario book, which has information about the scenario you are about to play. This shows how the battle map should be arranged and the missions which grant you influence points when achieved. It also has a round tracker to track how many rounds are left to play. As you progress through the game, make sure to keep your attention to the missions since the influence points are very valuable and declare the winner. Your faction chart is your headquarters, the source of all up-to-date information about your resources, available buildings, details about your ships, and your faction's combat abilities. In the physical version, the faction chart is made up of 5 parts, with uses on both sides of each part. But in Tabletop Simulator, we have this as a single component with different states you can change between by hovering your cursor over it and pressing 1, 2, 3, or 4. At the moment, you can see that your faction chart is set to state 2. The first part to the far left is your character chart. This is where you can track your resources such as credits and research, and can follow the turn process through each of the phases of a round. Going from left to right are your 3 building tier charts. Each building tier has a set of 3 building types, a specific ship class, and 4 available mods for that ship class. The description area of the top building and bottom ship mod in each tier are highlighted in your faction's colour. These are unique to your faction only, while the others are shared across all factions. To the far right of the faction chart is your influence tracker. Here is where you can track your influence points after you complete missions. At the end of the game, the player with the most influence points wins. Near your faction chart is your pool of available ships. These ships have a unique feature of fitting into each other, but in Tabletop Simulator we also handle these with states. Fighters are the smallest ships and consist of a single ship part. Frigates are a bit larger and consist of 2 ship parts. A fighter which fits into the larger frigate part, and together make the full frigate. Destroyers are the largest ships and consist of 3 ship parts. The fighter and frigate which both fit into the destroyer part and together makes the full destroyer. We use this mechanic to track damage in the game, but we'll explain more about that a bit later when the ships are in combat with others. In the centre of the table, you can find the battle map, which is an arrangement of star systems and hexagon fields. A field is a representation of either a point of interest in a star system or empty space. A star system is a cluster of 3 hexagon fields, with a coloured star in the centre. Various star systems placed together creates the scenario's battle map, and is where the majority of the game is played. On the battle map, you'll notice some grey ships positioned on some fields. These are pirates, a non-player faction that protect the fields they are on. They generally stay put and do not move. The game begins by choosing a player to be the start player for the first round. The start player should take the start player marker and place it in front of them with the resource phase corner pointed towards them. The start player marker will move around the table in clockwise order at the end of each round. Rounds are divided into 5 phases: resource phase, buy phase, move phase, combat phase, and cleanup phase. We go through the phases in what we call global turns. This means that each phase is done by each player in clockwise order before going on to the next phase. Resource phase. Resource phase is when you collect resources from fields and systems you control on the battle map and from active buildings on your planets. On your turn process section of your faction chart, it lists each type of resource you can collect. Credits are the main currency to buy buildings and ships. They can be earned by controlling asteroid fields, some planets, and from any active settlement buildings you have. After counting all of the credits you earn, you can add them to the credit tracker on your faction chart. Research is used to activate ship mods and unlock new building tiers. Like credits, some planets also offer research, along with any active research station buildings you have. When collected, you can add them to the research tracker on your faction chart. Shield and fire markers are collected by controlling either a blue or a red nebula. Blue nebulas give up to 2 of your ships a shield marker, which acts as an extra hit point for that ship. Red nebulas give up to 2 of your ships a fire marker, which deactivates all mods that ship may have. Some fields on the battle map are called rec fields and have up to 3 rec containers on it. In resource phase, you can select one of the available containers in that field and collect the resources it gives. If there are more containers on the field, you need to wait until the next resource phase to collect another one. You can freely choose and draw 1 action card from any of the 3 action card decks for each full star system you control and keep it in your hand. The number of star systems you control is also your hand limit as well. You control a full star system when you have either ships or buildings on each field of the star system. Buildings on a planet are enough to hold a field and do not need a ship on it. Action cards come in 3 sets of card decks: tactical, economy, and diplomacy. Tactical cards can be used to give you an advantage in combat. Economic cards can be used to give you additional resources or other advantages with your economy. Diplomacy cards can be used to initiate actions directly affecting another faction or pirates. The face of the card shows which type of card it is, the action it performs, and the phase it can be used in. Some action cards are meant to play against other players, or even as a reaction to another player's action cards. Therefore, you can play an action card at any moment within the specified phase, no matter if it is your turn or not. And there is no limit to how many you can play at any given time. Buy phase. Buy phase is when you can spend your resources from your credit and research trackers. You can see that there is a price of 3 credits above the Tier 1 buildings. This means that each of the buildings cost 3 credits to build. To buy a building, reduce your credits by the building cost and then place the building upside down in the construction state on an open building slot of any planet you control. Planets have a range of 1 to 4 building slots on them. A building slot is a solid-lined hexagon on the planet with the same size of the building tile. The larger slot below them, which has a shape like a star system, is for a special building in Tier 3 called the Terraformer. Building a terraformer on a planet gives you 2 additional building slots. Since all buildings can only be used once per round, active shipyards on a planet can produce 1 ship per turn for the cost listed in the shipyard's description. To build a ship, place the ship on the field with the shipyard and reduce your credits by the ship's cost. You can assign a ship mod to its ship class by reducing your research by the cost and moving one of the cubes to the mod of your choice. This mod is now active for all ships of that class on the battle map. If you have both cubes assigned and would like to move one to another, you can simply pay the research cost again and assign it to a different mod. If you want to unlock a new building tier, you can pay the research cost shown in the lock icon of that building tier chart and flip the faction chart part over. Once unlocked, you can place all of the buildings for this building tier in their spots, along with the 2 mod cubes. Move phase. Move phase is when you move your ships, which are on the battle map. Generally, all ship classes can only move 1 field per turn, unless specified elsewhere. If you are able to move a ship more than 1 field, you cannot move through any fields that are controlled by pirates or another faction. Combat phase. In combat phase, all battles need to be resolved. A battle is a field which has more than 1 faction in it during combat phase. Battles are resolved with 1 ship rolling their combat dice versus 1 other ship. Ships have hit points and combat dice equal to the number of parts the ship starts with. Since fighters have only 1 ship part, they only have 1 hit point and use only 1 combat die. Each player will roll their combat dice for the ship they are fighting with, and compare the number of aim icons rolled. The ship with the most aim icons wins the combat roll and stays intact. The ship with the least aim icons loses the combat roll, and that ship takes 1 damage. Since a fighter is a single ship part, meaning 1 hit point, the ship is removed from the battle map. For frigates and destroyers, the smallest ship part is removed. If there is a tie, then both ships take 1 damage. When there is a battle involving pirate ships, the player to your left takes full control of the pirates during the battle and makes any choices a pirate would need to make. If you're playing a general with a dice function, when the dice function symbol is rolled, that function is activated. Pirates do not have a dice function, so when a pirate rolls this, it is simply a 0. Cleanup phase. Cleanup phase is when everyone prepares for the next round simultaneously and has 6 simple steps. Remove any shield and fire markers on ships which are outside a nebula that gives the same marker. Flip over all buildings that are under construction to set it to their active state. Sell any action cards you would like to get rid of for 1 credit each to make room in your hand to draw more action cards. Check the list of missions to see if you've accomplished any in the last round. Advance the round marker on the scenario book up to the next round number. And lastly, pass the start player marker to the next player to the left to begin the next round. The end of the game. Once you reach the end of the final round in the scenario book, the game ends and the player with the most influence points is declared the winner. Although that seems like a lot of information to remember, if you follow the steps of the turn process each round, everything will move smoothly and come together quite quickly. Just remember that resource phase is when you collect any resources from fields and systems you control. Buy phase is when you spend your resources on buildings, ships, ship mods, and unlocking new building tiers. Move phase is when you move your ships across the battle map. Combat phase is when you resolve any battles you are in. Cleanup phase is when you prepare the battle map for the next round and double-check if you have earned any influence points. And when the last round of the scenario is finished, the player with the most influence points wins. That's it. When playing with us on Discord, your influence points will be tracked in a public leaderboard. The more you play with us, the more points you'll earn, which will unlock some roles and benefits. Thank you for watching this short rules description, and we look forward to playing with you.